hurt the WNBA when Caitlin Clark is out?
It is devastating to the WNBA when Caitlin Clark is out.
A lot of us were expecting some sort of dip since Caitlin Clark has been out with injury, but I don't think all of us were expecting the entire viewership of the entire WNBA to be down. And this tweet from Christine Brennan really stuck out to me. She said one player gets injured and more than half the TV audience for the entire league disappears. Has any other athlete ever had that kind of impact on a sport? Golf without Tiger definitely dropped precipitously on occasion.
Ladies and gentlemen, let us have a real conversation today. Not the kind dressed up in polished press releases or carefully curated social media posts. A real conversation about what is happening inside the WNBA right now, because the numbers are speaking loudly and the league does not appear to be listening. When Caitlin Clark is on the court,
And the truth is the truth, and the data is there. And what we saw when Caitlin was out the last time, the 5 games that she missed earlier in the season, the WNBA's viewership dropped more than 50%. Not just the Fever, but the entire league.
the WNBA looks like a league that has finally figured it out. Packed arenas, record television ratings, sold-out road games, merchandise flying off shelves, corporate sponsors writing checks with enthusiasm. The energy is undeniable, the momentum is real, and the conversation around women's basketball has never been louder in the history of...
Injury jumped to her groin likely because of compensation. But the thing that you have to be careful of is if, say, you try to rush her back from this injury as well, then you're getting into this territory where a very serious injury can happen. That is what the Indiana Fever, that is what Caitlin need to avoid the best that they possibly can. So if it means that Caitlin is out for 3 weeks, if it means that she is out all the way through All-Star, then so be
the sport. And then she gets injured and everything collapses, not slowly, not gradually, immediately and dramatically, like someone pulled the plug on the entire operation. That is not a metaphor. That is precisely what the numbers are telling us. And we need to sit with that reality for a moment before we talk about what it means for the future of this league.
Went down. The WNBA ratings have dropped over 55% across the board.
Hey, guess what, guys?
The league is Caitlin Clark.
The league is Caitlin Clark. She is the WNBA, guys.
Sidelined with a left quad strain May 24th, national TV viewership has plunged since then 55%. Before the injury, the Fever, her team, were averaging 1.81 million viewers, almost 2 million. Since her injury, fewer than 850.
When Clark was sidelined on June 24th with a quad injury, the financial and viewership consequences were swift and measurable. Now she is out again with a groin injury with no clear return timeline in sight, and the WNBA is watching history repeat itself in real time. Nationally televised games that averaged 1.818 million viewers when Clark played have dropped to just 847,000 without her. That is a 55% reduction in national television audience. Indiana Fever games specifically experienced a 53% decline in viewership during her absence. Let that sink in for just a moment. A professional sports league losing more than half of its national television audience because one
is alarming for the league. And it's alarming for the league because this is such a crucial year for the WNBA. At the end of this season, the WNBA will go into CBA negotiations. If negotiations go well, then every single player in the WNBA has a much better chance of making so much more in their next contract. And that's one thing when you start thinking about how many people stopped watching when Caitlin Clark got injured. A lot of people stopped watching because they are boycotting the WNBA. They don't want to give viewership to any other teams or any other players, whether they like other players on the team or not, because of how the media and the league itself has handled Caitlin Clark and how they have treated
player is unavailable is not a normal occurrence. That kind of swing does not happen in healthy, structurally sound leagues. That kind of swing happens when a league has built its entire commercial ecosystem around a single attraction and then done nothing to protect that attraction from being removed. The ticket market responded with equal severity. Fever game ticket prices dropped by 71%. Seats that had been listed as high as $860 fell to $250. When you zoom out and look at the average resale price across all of Clark's missed games, the numbers become even more jarring. The average ticket price collapsed from $1,370 down to $80.
Really concerning about this is the fact that we are only a month into the regular season, and Caitlin Clark has already been out with 2 injuries, with the first one being her having to miss some time with a left quad strain. Now, of course, this is concerning because if you're already on your second injury, you don't want to be that player that is always hurt. Cough, cough, Embiid, cough, cough, Anthony Davis. So I really do hope that the Fever really sits her out right now for a while, only because you don't want her to have more long-term injuries and be more prone.
From $1,370 to $80, that is not a market adjustment. That is a market in free fall. Road games that had been relocated to larger venues specifically to accommodate the overflow demand generated by Clark's presence were suddenly struggling to fill those same seats. The logistics of expansion had been put in place for her. The infrastructure had been modified for her. And without her, those expanded venues became a reminder of just how singular her impact truly is. The Los Angeles Sparks and Indiana Fever rematch tells the story perfectly. That game was one of the most anticipated matchups of the entire season.
Congratulations to the WNBA. Your ratings are going to drop by 55 to 60% once again. I believe the WNBA have successfully broken Caitlin.
Tickets had been listed at $210. When it became clear Clark would not be playing, those same tickets dropped to $95. The earlier meeting between these two teams drew 2.25 million viewers and became one of the most watched WNBA games ever recorded. Without Clark in the lineup for the rematch, it reverted to being just another game on the schedule with no particular urgency for casual viewers to tune in. That is the Caitlin Clark effect, documented in real time in both directions. And the financial damage extends well beyond a few underperforming broadcasts and soft ticket markets. The WNBA was already projected to lose $50 million this season. That projection came during what everyone acknowledged was a period of historic growth, fueled almost entirely by Clark's arrival and the cultural conversations surrounding her.
As big a deal as Tiger was in men's golf, Keith, he did, and when he was gone, it affected the ratings, but nothing like that. And, Michael Jordan being out, maybe a 5 percentage points or something. Nothing like this. You can make a strong case, and I will make that case, and have that there is no one single athlete more important to his or her sport or tour, or whatever the circuit is that they play on, than Caitlin Clark is to the WNBA.
When she is absent and attendance slides back toward pre-Clark levels, when ratings retreat and merchandise momentum stalls, those losses are not shrinking. They are growing. The league's average viewership this season without Clark has been approximately 555,000, a number that sits meaningfully below last year's 670,000 average. That regression represents a return toward the era of quiet arenas and limited mainstream engagement that the league had only recently begun to escape. These numbers exist inside a broader context that the league cannot afford to ignore. According to statistics that have been widely cited in this discussion, Caitlin Clark accounts for 26.5% of all WNBA economic activity. Over half of the league's entire national television audience is drawn specifically to her participation. That level of concentration around one individual is extraordinary in modern professional sports. Leagues are generally built on competitive depth.
I don't even know where to begin, man. I hope Caitlin Clark is okay. I want to know when this injury even happened, bro, because let's be serious here. She has the quad injury. Mind you, Caitlin Clark hadn't missed a game since she was like 19 years old, since she was like 18 in college or something. Now she has a groin injury. We've never seen Caitlin Clark play as bad as she played the last 3 games. Let's just be serious here. She's like 1 for 20-something on threes in the last 3. We've never seen her shoot the ball this way. I'll say that. Has she been hurt and playing through?
On the idea that multiple teams and multiple stars create a web of interest broad enough to sustain viewership even when any one player is unavailable. The WNBA's current numbers suggest that web does not yet exist in any meaningful way, and this is where the conversation becomes deeply uncomfortable because the league had every opportunity to build that web. Clark's arrival created an opening that comes along perhaps once in a generation. A player who does not just attract existing fans, but creates entirely new ones. A player who fills seats in road cities, who moves the needle on national broadcasts, who draws corporate investment at a pace the league had never previously experienced. The opportunity was not subtle.
I admire about Caitlin. She's a warrior. She's tough. You hear me? Bruh, you just don't see players, you don't see female basketball players like her. I'm sorry. I done seen a lot of female basketball players, like I said.
It was historic and obvious and sitting directly in front of the league's leadership. What happened next is what critics find most difficult to forgive. Rather than fully embracing that moment and using it to build lasting structural foundations, the WNBA found itself managing controversy. Clark became a target of frequent physical play throughout her rookie season and into her second year. The pattern of hard fouls and deliberate contact directed at her became a storyline that the league was slow to address with any meaningful discipline or clarity. Veteran sports journalist Christine Brennan, who is preparing to publish a book titled On Her Game, Caitlin Clark and the Revolution in Women's Sports, has been among the most prominent voices calling the league out directly. After another incident in which Clark...
I believe the physicality and all this hacking and fouling that goes on, she getting blindsided by Marina Mabry. I think all of this stuff is having a wear and tear and an impact. And all you guys are doing are hurting yourselves because the numbers are going to drop and drop and drop. And trust me, when it's time for that collective bargaining agreement, they are going to point to this and say, well, how can we give you guys all this money? What happens if she gets her...
absorbed excessive contact? Brennan stated plainly that the WNBA continues to fail to meet the moment, and that when more people are watching than ever before, this is precisely what they see. Her criticism is pointed and difficult to dismiss. The Phoenix Mercury were identified as responsible for 80% of the league's 30 egregious fouls against Clark, with 5 of those occurring in 2026 alone. The league's response in most of these situations defaulted to familiar language about basketball plays and allowing competition to flow naturally. Meanwhile, Clark was placed in an impossible position publicly. When she reacted visibly to the physical play, she was criticized for being overly confrontational. When she absorbed it quietly, she was described as too sensitive. There was no response available to her that escaped criticism.
Because of the way they play the game, because I love the WNBA, I love the way they play the game. But we really watch it because Caitlin Clark and everybody watching. Now listen, if I keep bumping her, knocking her down, might get her a concussion, you might hurt her for real. For 2 weeks, she was done with like a hamstring. She was down. 55% of the viewership was down. She comes back the next game, it's about 3 million viewers. Now, let me tell you something. Growing up in the hood, they teach you this. Always protect the money. Y'all keep hurting her and all that. She's going for a year or 2. Ain't nobody gonna watch it. If nobody watches, how y'all gonna make and generate money?
And the league offered no framework that might have resolved the cycle. The practical consequences of this failure have now moved beyond perception into finance. Fans who discovered the WNBA specifically because of Caitlin Clark represent a large and critically important segment of the league's new audience. These are not lifelong devotees who will watch regardless of circumstances. These are casual viewers drawn by star power, by compelling storylines, by the feeling that something meaningful is happening that they do not want to miss. If those viewers perceive that the league is tolerating a hostile environment around its most compelling player, that the officiating is inconsistent, the WNBA's current numbers suggest that institutional foundation has not been built yet. Caitlin Clark will return. The ratings will likely recover when she does. The arenas will fill again. The ticket prices will climb back. The sponsors will exhale. And the league will have another opportunity to take the lessons of this period seriously and build something more durable. But if the pattern repeats again after her next return, if the league once more coasts on her presence without fortifying its foundations, the same collapse will follow the next injury. And the injury after that, and so on for as long as the league continues treating Clark's presence as a substitute for institutional development rather than a catalyst for it. The worst version of this story is the one where the WNBA had every ingredient needed to build something historic and squandered each opportunity by failing to protect the player responsible for providing those ingredients in the first place. Clark came into the league with humility, with grace, with a willingness to elevate those around her and share credit generously. The league had a superstar who was not difficult to manage, not demanding or divisive, not creating problems off the court. It had exactly the kind of transformational figure that leagues spend decades hoping for. What it did with that figure will be the defining question of this chapter. The numbers right now are delivering a verdict that the league cannot afford to misread. A 55% drop in national viewership is not a footnote. A 71% collapse in ticket prices is not an acceptable fluctuation. A regression in average viewership below last year's numbers during what should be the most exciting era in league history is not something to be explained away with comfortable language about competitive balance. These are signals, loud, clear, and unmistakable signals. The WNBA has an opportunity in front of it right now during this difficult stretch to demonstrate that it has genuinely learned from the patterns of the past several months, to take the financial pain of Clark's absence and convert it into motivation for structural reform, to emerge from this period with clearer player protection standards, broader marketing strategies, and a more honest reckoning with the institutional dependence that these numbers have exposed. That is the hopeful version of what comes next. But hope requires action to become reality, and the action required here is not complicated. Protect the players who fill your arenas. Market the athletes who move your ratings. Enforce standards consistently regardless of which teams are involved. Build a product that retains audiences even when its biggest star is unavailable. Do those things, and the foundation Clark helped create becomes something real and lasting. Fail to do them, and the boom and bust cycle continues. The losses compound, and the historic opportunity dissolves into a cautionary tale about a league that had everything it needed and could not get out of its own way. The clock is running, the numbers are clear, the choice belongs entirely to the league.